Hello and welcome to the Hitout. I'm your host, Phoenix Trinidad, and if you're new here, this is Zero Hanger's weekly AFL podcast where we talk about everything that happened on the weekend and everything to come. And since we're in the middle of the year, this episode we're discussing who would be in the mid-year All-Australian team. So it's a good one. We also take a look at every club's first pick, and it's not looking good for some teams, mine included. So all that and more on a great episode of the Hitout. Let's get to it. All right, we are here for another week. So joining me on the Hitout, we have Mitch, Keating, editor at zerohanger.com. Hey, mate.
What's up? How are you?
Good. How's your weekend?
Good. I didn't work. So
All right.
Still watch.
Someone hates their
Still
job.
watch as much footy as I would when I do work. But yeah, well, you can't complain. You don't work weekends.
I love my job. Oh, no, yeah.
I didn't
because
say
I don't
that.
work weekends, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and someone else who did work on the weekend, Aidan, Cellini? No?
No.
Mate, who was working at Zero
Cal.
Hanger on the weekend?
Cal had the.
Cal?
He manned the
Full week.
fort. He manned the fort very
Shout
well.
out to Cal.
Yes,
Yeah.
shout
No
out
wonder
to
he
Cal.
hasn't been on the pod in a couple of weeks. He's just been working on the
Just
weekend.
slaving on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, all right.
Good for
Well, let's get to it. So first thing on the rundown, GWS versus Richmond. So two teams we don't really talk too much about, but you wanted to give them their flowers.
Yeah, I feel like we've ticked off most clubs. And if we've talked about the Tigers this year, it's usually been around their rebuild, not so much their on-field performance. And the Giants, probably similar. We probably just haven't spoken on them. They've been a bit up and down, and consistency standpoint haven't quite been there, but it's turning around a little bit for them and Adam Kingsley. But the thing I found quite fascinating about this one was kind of like the whole sliding doors thing with both coaches. Like Kingsley's at Richmond, applies and pushes and gets the GWS job a few years ago, but in the same window, Adam Uze, who was at Melbourne at the time, went for the same job and was hoping to get and was in the final few for the GWS role. And now Kingsley's at the Giants, and Adam Uze just kind of waited his time and got one at Richmond. But if Uze had gotten that GWS job, you would probably be pretty sure that Adam Kingsley would be coaching the Tigers right now, given how well he was rated at Richmond as an assistant. Probably didn't expect Dimmer to be leaving, the year after he starts coaching. I think if he'd known, he might have hung around at Punt Road, but they'd both have to be enjoying their roles, very different roles as well. Like Kingsley's got them up and contending again, with quite a ready-made list, where Uze's obviously having that slower burn approach. But yeah, it's quite interesting to see that they both could have had each other's job potentially, and they've certainly taken different paths over the last 2 or so years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's good to see that he's getting his boys up at Tigerland performing at a decent level. So we didn't expect much of them this year. Everyone had them probably winning the wooden spoon. So to see them winning 3 games close to a 4, it's quite competitive with such a young list, with a few obvious experienced heads in there as well, is a good thing. And obviously, boys, Tigers fans, but I think the Giants were quite lucky to get away with that one.
Yeah, I feel like Uze goes underrated just in terms of, like, he wasn't outside of Melbourne before he got the job. Outside of Melbourne, I feel like nobody really spoke about him. But again, I've said it before on this podcast, but he was our midfield coach when we won the premiership. And, but whether or not he had the list rebuild style, like a style that was going to complement a list rebuild, I think the jury was kind of out. But I think he's proven that it's
When he took over, he probably wasn't expecting to go into a rebuild. Like year prior, they get Transfer and Hopper in. And they've kind of cashed in the other way. Like his first offseason, they didn't have a first-round pick, year before last. So it's probably not the window. And that's kind of something we'll actually touch on a little bit in the show. But it was quite an interesting direction that they've had to take under his leadership. And he's been well rated. Like he obviously he was with Hawthorn in their golden year period a decade ago, and then Melbourne and there for a flag as well. And as we knew, when in his final years at Melbourne, he was kind of the one up in the coach's box, and Simon Goodwin was at ground level. So, I thought he probably would be better equipped to a ready-made list like what Kingsley kind of took on, even though the Giants were pretty low in the year he stepped in, or the year before he stepped in. But yeah, like I said, they're both doing quite well in relative terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can see Uze's imprint now. So his first year was kind of finding his feet, seeing what's going to happen. Obviously, a lot of talk around the players probably departing, which they ended up doing so. And they obviously got in a heap of draftees, which they committed to doing. But now you can see the type of player they want to commit to, and you can see spurts of it in games. But obviously, that consistency factor lacks a little bit at the moment. But yeah, super from both coaches, I guess. So early in their careers.
Yeah, and the game itself, it was a bit of a ripper. I actually thought at 3/4 time, I think the Giants probably could pull this off. Just
Yeah.
Tigers started to look a little slow right before the final break. And the Giants just getting back a little bit of momentum. And then obviously you have Cal Water 3/4 time, which I will also touch on a little bit later in the show as well. So ripper game. Tigers, over the last 3 weeks, they'd kick away from a couple extra wins. They could be sitting on 5 wins. So, they're doing quite well and being competitive, which is all you can really ask for given the demographic of their list.
All right, and one of the games probably had the most consequences coming out of this round. So Crows, Sydney, where do you want to start with these?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one. Like Crows contenders, Sydney suck. Like, are we buying into both of those? Is it one or the other from that game? I think it could be kind of split down the middle, to be honest. We'll touch on the Crows, the Swans a little bit in our mailbag as well. Kind of pushing everything to the end of the episode here. Stay tuned. But the Crows were just emphatic. Like on the road, I don't think they've done that well in Sydney over the last period or so. So they've knocked off a win they haven't managed for some time. And they did it in style, like absolute thumping right from the get-go as well.
Well, generally, not many teams do well in Sydney because they're kind of a bit smaller grounds, so to speak, in terms of dimensions. They're contested ball, but this one's just looking shambles. At the moment, obviously, Dean Cox now, the whole premise of should he have been the man, should have let Longmire kind of stay on, obviously comes into question. Obviously, they thought he was going to be the right man. They've had a few injuries as well. Obviously, suspensions of Cal Mills last week. So just that inconsistency with some of their key players, which if you look back last year, I think they used the least amount of players, which everyone knows health is your number one asset as from a team's perspective. So if you've got your best players on the park for 20 plus weeks a year, usually you're going to be performing at a pretty high level. But, they missed Goulden all year. Their forward line's, struggling at the moment with keys coming in and out. And obviously then the form as well dips because there's so much reliance on too few.
Yeah, obviously, like a lot of the conversation out of this has been on the Swans and Wayne Miller's comments, which I think have been well documented anyway. Play on. I don't know why there's apologies. Anyway, don't talk about
You
that.
didn't need to apologise for that.
No, absolutely. Well, he didn't at least, but which I think is fine.
You shouldn't have to apologise for anything that's true.
True. Yeah, if he's stating facts, like you're just pointing it out. You're not really doing anything else.
But he said it was because he said so. The comment was that they were a bit of a rabble.
They were a rabble
based
on
on what he was hearing on the ground.
Yeah.
That's just he's just recounting his experience.
Yeah. Like the cameras are there. Just go watch them yourselves. Anyway, we weren't supposed to talk about that because actually I do want to talk about the actual Crows and what they were putting together. We know how good their forward line is and how well their back line's been performing the last few weeks, but the midfield as well, just so dynamic. And someone else is stepping up every week, it seems. Like Isaac Cumming was this week. Ben Keys had quite a quiet game against Collingwood a couple of weeks ago and then comes out and has one of his best again for the year. So, if they can all hit their straps at the right time, that's the type of performance you get from the Crows.
Are they actually that because I think there was a stat that they've only really beaten one team in the top 8, and that was GWS or something like that.
Let me have a look.
But and again, you can only play who you
come up against.
Who you're fixtured to play. I think next week they have Hawthorn and Collingwood, I think, coming up or something like that.
Hawthorn then the bye. Then they have Richmond, Melbourne. I don't know about Collingwood. They had Collingwood just recently.
They just
weeks ago. But again, they ran them close and it was 10 points in the end. They probably could have stolen it as well. But I think with the Crows as well, and probably what should be commended is their recruiting. Yeah. So obviously draft picks, sometimes they hit and miss. They've had a few top end picks, Dan Curtin as well, coming through nicely. But their trade and free agency moves in the last 4 or 5 years have all been hits. So last year they went pretty heavy. Neil Bullen, Cumming, Peatling. They got Dawson as well, Rankin.
Off seasons. Tick.
Yeah, they paid heavy price for. Even like Mark Keane, who was courted by, was previous at the Pies, courted by them last year, but somehow managed to retain him.
That's one of the.
He's playing super footy.
Yeah, it's a fantastic pickup because he's just back in Ireland. Like I don't know if he had flagged to clubs that he was back or wanting to come back, but Adelaide got into the front of the queue quickly, so they must have been doing some hard work and looking into him already before he kind of turns back towards coming to Australia. So yeah, their most recent off season's good, but like you said, the trend has really worked well for them, both from trade, free agency, but also draft as well. Yeah,
if they can get over Brisbane, I think then everyone's going to start calling him a contender.
Yeah, because those two drew at Adelaide over last year, I think. Yeah. So it could be another close one, and just given how Adelaide are playing this year, they might just go a little bit better.
Yep. All right, so we are in the bye rounds now. I think there's 7 weeks of buys or something going on. I don't really understand.
I think it's about a month.
It feels long. Yeah, anyway, so but
we're 1 week in.
yeah, we're 1 week in. I don't mind the spread, but if there's like one bad game, then it kind of affects the spread of games. But so figured we'd take a little check-in for the bye club. So we have Carlton, Port Adelaide, North Melbourne, and the Western Bulldogs. Where do you want to start? Carlton?
Yeah, like looking at, there's probably
Bad.
3 clubs that want the break and 1 club in the Western Bulldogs that would happily continue. Yeah, the Blues, didn't really get into the bye how they would have hoped at 4 and 7, but I guess it's the time you need to kind of assess, see what's gone right and what's gone wrong, and they're obviously going to work on the latter a lot, and hopefully it kind of turns for them a little bit. And it all starts with who they got this week. I can't remember. Let me have a look. But anyway, like
Essendon.
that's right. Yeah, it's King's Birthday Eve. Bombers look good on Thursday. They get a bit of a break, the Bombers, but the Blues do too. So should be 2 fresh sides going at it. And yeah, I'd like to think the Blues are getting up on this one, but I did like what I saw from the Bombers. So it could get really difficult really quick for Carlton if they're not returning it with a win this weekend.
Yeah. Port Adelaide 4 and 7 as well.
Yeah, I'd be less confident in Port Adelaide than I am in Carlton, which is probably saying something. They probably just haven't been as competitive as you would hope. They've had to throw a few magnets around here and there, and they've found some wins. Like being able to move Connor Rosey to halfback's great. Like he's one of your best ball winners in midfield, but when you've got such a long line of inside players like Wines and Drew, it probably just gets you a little bit of both. Like you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul in that matter. So, but yeah, GWS this weekend, I think it is in Canberra, is it? I'm trying to remember what I'm looking at here.
That could be so bad.
Manuka.
Oh, yes.
Manuka.
Yeah, so that could be, like the Blues, they could be off to a losing start after what it was a needed break and what you hope you return in good form from.
But that can't imagine those 2 teams would make finals. I mean, this is probably the last week. If you go 4 and 8 and you've come back from the bye, which traditionally I don't think teams have actually performed that well after. We can do a deep dive, I think, more often than not.
Yeah, I can't remember if that's like what people used to think, and now it's turned a little bit. I actually have no idea. But
I always remember Geelong about
used to
after
be
a bye.
terrible.
Yeah. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? But Port Adelaide, just in terms of like where they're at as a club, they just feel so irrelevant at the moment. Like, especially with the whole coaching thing. It's almost like, and a lot of people have said it, but it's like they've written off the year. Yeah. Like what do you do in that case? But
tell you what, it is a fascinating next month for them because they've played 4 sides who they could beat. Yeah. Could beat. But at the same time, you look at the other side and they might actually go in as first. So you have GWS, then Melbourne, could beat, but at the same time, wouldn't be surprised if either side. Then Sydney, could beat, but the Swans. And then they have Carlton. Yeah. So, and then those last 3 games are all Adelaide Oval. So they have the trip to Monaco this week. Then they have a whole month at home. So that could give them a little leg up just to get a bit of momentum into the home stretch.
I think Port Adelaide, if they turned it around, won those 4, made a run for finals, and then won a flag, would be the funniest possible outcome for this season.
Can you imagine if they did the hand, like they brought the handover forward and then that happened?
Yeah.
Like Ken's just steps aside.
Port
I'd love for Ken to win one, but at the same
I would love
time,
that too. But if that happened, then Port fans, it would just Port fans would just still be so mad because they were like, why didn't we do this like 4 years ago?
I wonder what Ken would do if he won. So I'm just going back to last time Port won a flag and Choco was written off by his own club.
Mate.
And everyone remembers the tie and the speech he made after they'd beaten the Lions. So I wonder what Ken would do.
If Ken won a flag this year, he would be running around Adelaide completely nude. Like he would just go off his rocker. Like you saw how he reacted when he just won a showdown. Can you imagine if he wins a flag? Yeah. He'll go insane.
Even when he won it, I think down to the cattery, he's put his hand up and doing that and just.
Then I love the Ginnivan thing last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Loves it.
Like I would now. That's what I want to happen. Yeah. Like I just want to give Ken permission to just absolutely go riot. North Melbourne weirdly feels more optimistic for them coming into the bye, but. I don't know.
Well, it'll be good this weekend. Like
in terms of expectation,
they have their first of 2 home games in WA, so they've got this little period where they head over west. They have West Coast in Bunbury, So the Eagles don't have to really travel far, which is nice for them. But it's a little bit of a win for North Melbourne with I think they didn't really have to travel to face these clubs anyway, or might not have. I think they'll face West Coast maybe over here, but they didn't have to travel to face Fremantle. I can't remember how it all unfolded, but it seemed like it was a good deal for all involved. So I'd like to think North go in as favourites off a break, and the Eagles play Sunday to Sunday, so it's 7 days. It's not too bad. So it could be a nice little win for them. And as we spoke about last week when we were talking about Clarko, how maybe he can get the side just showing some positive glimpses at the end of this year, and then really make that jump next year.
Yeah, just on numbers, I know 2 wins is pretty bleak and a draw, and everyone expects them to spike a little bit more. But if you look at their percentage over the last 3-4 years, 78.1 as it stands now is the highest, which implies that they're a lot more competitive. So it's not as many blowouts. Obviously, there has been a few disappointing results in that. But again, that trend is going upward, which probably doesn't mean a lot. But when you look at the improvement, that's kind of where it starts. And then obviously individuals as well.
Yeah, it's a positive trend, but it's
It's
the
slow.
speed of which it's going. Because we're year 3 of Clarko, but then everyone
we said,
writes off the first year.
Like we said last year, if you can call it year 2, which some people will be happy with and some others won't, then I think it's you look at it as a bit more of a positive if they can get some stuff out of this year.
Western Bulldogs 6-5, and some close losses there too. So better than where we thought they'd be.
Well, it's an interesting one. Everyone thinks that the Bulldogs, and have probably the last few weeks, the most informed team in the competition. But when you look at their win-loss record, it's obviously doesn't necessarily indicate that. But kind of like last year when they made that run to the finals, I think they were first for points for, first for points against. So they had a great profile from that perspective, but obviously the win-loss probably didn't reflect that as much. But again, they're still a scary prospect, and we know what Beverly likes to do, being the underdog, doesn't really make top 4, hasn't, I don't think, in his tenure. So I think they're positioned quite nicely, got the break, hopefully get a few soldiers back. I think Sam Darcy,
not far.
surprisingly, maybe a fortnight or so away, I think, might be the timeline, or maybe a little bit longer than that. But again, when he's back, they can be anything.
Yeah, I think it's more that they answered that question of what do they look like without Smith? What do they look like without McRae? You can see what they're they have a solid structure now. I know they've lost Ugo Hagen and again Darcy's out, but you know what they're doing. What you're coming up against now when you see their list.
You got a nice run as well. Play against an out of form Hawks this week, and then Saints, Richmond, Sydney, North. That's potentially 5 more wins, and then come up against Adelaide a bit later in the year. So could be looking good.
And this is where they got their run on last year around this mark when they started. I think they won majority of their games. So they're probably prepping themselves for this exact part of the year.
Yep. All right. Footy Stonks. I think we do this every 4 weeks or so.
First step of the month.
First step of the month.
Yeah.
For those that don't know what Footy Stonks are, they don't make a lot of sense.
Just go back and watch. Just go back and watch it.
Just go back and watch it. But basically, we're treating anything in football like stonks. We buy, we sell, we short, and that's about as much of an explanation as I can give.
That's it.
But
you summed it up nicely.
Yeah. Okay, so your previous.
Should we recap?
What's your current portfolio looking at?
So I got Archie Roberts. I bought him I think that's May. Oh no, April. Bought him in April along with Jake Saligo. And I shorted Bevo, and then I got Melbourne's midfield in.
So you shorted the Bevo commentary.
Oh, sorry, not Bevo. Yeah, no, I'm keeping that one. Yeah, it's doing all right. The only commentary around Bevo at the moment is when he's going to re-sign, so that's good. And then last month I think I got in Melbourne's midfield. Oh no, that was the same month. That was the same month. Yeah. And then after that, I got Adelaide's backline, Shankwith Giath, Cal Wilkie's All-Australian push, and I shorted the Blues.
Right. I mean, it's a big portfolio.
Yeah.
Compared to
I think I'm the
ours,
only
but
one that's
pretty
done
good.
it twice. So
Yeah.
it's a bit bigger.
Yeah. Well, I had Jack Higgins, who is seemingly kind of fallen off a little cliff for the last fortnight, but he's still going very well. Matt Kennedy is performing consistently. Tom Atkins as well. I did short the Suns. And I was just before their trip to Darwin, which was perfect. But then they also got rolled by the Dockers. So I'm a bit of a mixed feel with that one at the moment.
Up and down.
Yeah. So my portfolio has been around since, when was it?
It was the April edition.
April edition.
Shorts.
Yeah. So I bought Libba, shorted the Cane Corns Channel 7 combo, which I think still sort of holds true. So that was, I think people are going to be sick of Cane Corns and Channel 7, that combo by now.
Yep.
Or by the end of the year. And I think I'm just going to hold on that. But if we have, so now we get to buy, sell, Sure.
Yeah, now we can
Yeah.
sell him if we want. We haven't really had that option. Also, just want to shout out Cal. He bought Seth Campbell after about 3 games this year.
Yep.
This might have been the best purchase.
Yeah,
he's
he
holding
called
that
it.
one for the rest of the year. Yeah. So new. So I'm not going to sell any. Chankwood Jess probably the one that's underperforming the most, and Jake Seligo's dropped off a little bit, but I'm pretty happy with everything I've got. But this week or this month, I'm going to buy Zach Johnson. 1 game in. But I like the look, even though he got subbed out. I really like the look, and hopefully he can get a few more games. So that's a second Essendon halfback I've picked up. Kane McAuliffe, I think he can now find a bit of a groove and some consistency if he can hold his spot in Adam Uze's side. So another one I'm buying low, and one that I don't really want to buy, but I can see it's only going to keep happening is long first rounds at the draft. Watching SA versus the Allies on the weekend, and boy, there's heaps of Northern Academy kids who are going to be up the high end of the draft. So you got Brisbane are going to have Dan Annable, but Gold Coast could have 4 first-round picks again, and there could be another 30 picks in the first round. So after the last 2 years, where I think there was an average of 28 or so selections in the first round. There's going to be another one. So I'm buying it because I know what's going to happen, but I don't really like. I'd like it just in nice clean first round of the draft. Anyway.
Yeah, it's like you're buying something that you're not looking forward to. Like if you were going to buy climate change
win-win.
or something.
Yeah,
it's win-win.
It's like the Big Short movie.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, but sure.
Oh, you're backing against the
Sounds
House
like-
Mark.
You haven't seen it, but like based on this, you should watch it. Just
I've
for
always
this
wanted.
segment.
I've actually. It's on my list of movies.
It's a really
to
good
watch.
movie.
Very good
Yeah.
movie. But yeah, you're backing against something that you don't want to happen, but
Yeah.
you know it's gonna.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're gonna obviously check in from it.
Mm.
Mine is Mark Keane. I think he's had a good few weeks. Huge in the showdown. Again, massive on the weekend.
Yeah. Swans
Both-
couldn't not kick it to him.
Yeah. Bobby Hill, he's kind of just peppered away ever so slightly. Obviously, a lot of talk about Jamie Elliott and some of the other forwards, but I think he's ready to have a monster game sometime soon. Also, call some turnover. As we kind of enter the winter months, I think this is going to be a big part, and always has been, might I add, a big part of games. Yeah, you can win from clearance. Obviously, there's not many scores from kick in, but there was 7 from 7 wins if you win the turnover battle. We saw Collingwood absolutely demolish the Hawks in this facet, and so many other teams as well. So I guess if you win that battle, you essentially win the game.
Yep.
And keeping the others, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm happy with those.
What are you doing?
I'm going to sell Libba
Whoa.
because I just don't think – I think we've gotten the most value out of him. Like he's not going to decrease in value, but he's not going to increase.
He's
I don't
nothing
think.
if not consistent.
Yeah.
He doesn't have an AA jacket though, and he could finally get one this year. I don't think he's in that mix.
I don't think he
But
just
that's
is
I
now that
think
Bontempelli's
that's
back.
the thing that would or like a Norm Smith.
Yeah.
Are really
Like if we're talking portfolios, I'm pretty conservative with my risk assessment. So yeah, sorry to Libba, but I am selling him. But this is probably a bit more of a risk, but I'm gonna buy Harvey Langford for Rising Star. Like he's probably in that 3rd, 4th, 5th tier when you compare to like Levi Ashcroft or whatnot. But I just think he's just a sneaky chance.
I can't rule him out.
And his value's dipped a little bit.
Yeah. So I'd have Ashcroft number 1, but then Archie Roberts
Murphy Reid.
up there, Murphy Reid, Sam Lawler probably might not end up playing enough games. Connor O'Sullivan had a really good return game, so I don't hate it.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't mind it. He's one of my favorites out of the draft, but buying low, I guess, or lowish. Yeah, could pay off.
Yeah,
cool.
We should put some actual money into this somehow. I don't know how it works, but
It's called Sportsbet.
Points bet. Yeah. Anyway, mid-year All-Australian team. We have to keep the sponsors happy, I think. All right. So we are, again, in the buy rounds. I think it's a good time to take a look at a All-Australian team. We're just going to go through. We'll probably publish our full teams later in the week on our socials, or Hanger on Instagram and everywhere else. But who is in contention for each of the positions? So we'll start with the backs.
Who do we want to see?
Well, Bailey Dale, I
Yeah.
think, is probably a lock at this point. I don't think much more needs to be said. I think Nazai Wanganeen-Miller as well, building a fair and solid case. Lockie Ash as well, and kind of the 2 Lockies from GWS. You can probably pick either or both at the moment, or none, given the fact that these guys are all playing good football. But I think from the halfback perspective, probably those.
I'm going to go against Dale. I think Lockie Ash, lock him in. I really like Jordan Clark. So I think those two is who I'd set in. I think you're probably going to, you would always have a third, and it might be Dale. I like Wanganeen Miller or Jack Sinclair. But then if I want to talk talls, and then you go just the three talls and 3 smalls then. Cal Wilkie, this isn't just because of my stonks, but I think especially after on Sunday against Melbourne, he's starting to rubber stamp an AA spot. And then Jacob Wiedering had a pretty poor finish before the bye. I had him in like a rolling All-Australian side after I think it was round 6, so it's now another 6 weeks in. Don't know if he's there, but Sam Taylor, Harris Andrews might be hard to pass up for the talls.
I think those halfback flanks are probably going to be the hardest ones to pick this year.
Many.
Like everybody on the halfback is good.
Well, if you don't have a good one, you're essentially not a good team.
Yeah.
You have to get the ball from one end to the other.
Yeah.
And you have to obviously have that as well.
Yeah, I think the impact of them is going to be, so every halfback is good. Wilkie, I agree with. I liked Wilkie.
Killing it.
And he absolutely destroyed the Ds on the weekend. Mids, again, probably the hardest one to pick. Bally Smith, definitely in.
Yeah, Smith's a big tick. I think it's hard to go past Zach Merritt, Nick Dacos, and then it's a real like fight between you.
I haven't even named Merritt in this, what we have here.
Yeah,
he's definitely in.
No, I hadn't added any names, but you look at your Merritts, your Dacoses, and your Smiths, and then I think the next rung of Rowell, Brayshaw, Max Holmes, Ed Richards probably should be in there. I think George Hewitt had a great start and he's looked to keep it up. Noah Anderson's in Brownlow contention. And then the wings, like if you're including them, like Hugh McCluggage probably could be one of the best on-ballers in the comp this year, but he's probably going to get pushed to a wing, which I don't really complain with as long as he gets a blazer after being in the squad 4 times and not getting one. Obviously, it always bats deep, the midfield.
Yeah, so you're putting him, but you'd have to put him this year. You'd have to put him as an on-baller.
Yeah, but
in
like
the midfielder.
Yeah, but like if I'm guessing that what All-Australian side gets selected, then I'm probably putting them on the wing. But if I want to pick actual wingers, like
is this our All-Australian team, or is this what you're betting the actual All-Australian team is going to be?
I think
because if you're betting what the actual All-Australian team is going to be,
I think you're allowed to throw one non-winger onto a wing, and as long as you have one good winger. I used to be 2 pure wingers, but it just doesn't happen. No. And like who are the best wingers this year? Ollie Dempsey,
But something he's probably haven't had an All-Australian type year. He's been really good,
hard.
but it's also then you see midfielders go through the wing, and it's multiple roles that you play in the span of
one of the
5
best
minutes.
rated wingers this year is James Harms, but I'm not having him in the All-Australian conversation.
Why not? If he's a winger,
I don't have anything against James Harms, but like
I think our All-Australian team standards should be higher than what the actual All-Australian
that's why I said
team.
one winger. That's one more than what they have.
So James Harms
We
and
need
Hugh
2
McCluggage
wingers.
on the wings.
Yeah, so like I'm not going to name Ollie Dempsey as good as he's playing, or James Harms, or Massimo D'Ambrosio, or I'm trying to think of any of the other decent wingers, but like that's like looking at your top level.
Well, I'm putting wingers on the wing. So, what about you? Wingers on the wing?
Well, how much wing do they have to play, or does it have to be their primary position? Because like
I guess their primary role or primary position. Yeah,
There's almost only like a handful
The
of players
occasional-
who are specifically wing now.
yeah.
because like
A lot of
Sam
clubs-
Walsh
a lot of
plays
clubs
wing,
Then
as
they
well.
should get the position
Well, then it's
on.
then it's
the
like 2
Australian team.
positions between like 5 players. Is that what you're saying?
and then Sam
Yeah.
Walsh plays
So
a
you
bit of
got-
wing this year.
But
But
Hugh McCluggage averaging just say 35 and a goal a game,
Mhm.
but Neil
in the midfield.
No, but there's 3 other better midfielders.
Yeah.
should we talk about forwards?
No, okay. No. We'll fight this one out in the comments. We're going to be putting this up on socials so we can fight it out there.
Alright.
Well, I mean, Ruck's first, so
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Gone.
There's a
Gone has
It's
to be
probably
first.
Gone if not Sherry.
Yeah.
It's
And
one of those two.
and
Declining
Sherry for
early.
me, second ruck. Like I'm putting him on the
You probably
interchange.
could be a year for the double ruck.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against
You've had it
that.
before.
Yeah, I think it was 2020 when they
Yeah.
had Nick Nat and Gorn. So, don't hate it. I think I had DeConing after 6 rounds, but I think he's probably just taken a big step back. But Gorn and Sherry have just kept going up.
step
So,
forward.
yeah, those two I think wouldn't mind seeing them shared, but stiff to kick someone off the bench because it's usually just 4 midfielders.
Yeah. Forwards.
Yeah, well, Jeremy
Um,
Cameron leading.
Wow,
Coleman medal.
yeah.
Normally that's a given.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
necessarily love it, but he also the way he plays the game as well. He doesn't sit in the goal square, put his hand up.
Yeah, Ben
asking
King's
for it.
Ben King's played 1 less game, so you probably put him up there. Jesse Hogan, sorry, it's only 2 behind him, and missed 1 or 2 games
With
as well.
with his
So you could probably go for 3 talls in that regard. Jamie Elliott, 33 goals, second in the Coleman, hard to not look at. And Jack Higgins maybe another one, I think, small forward. If Paul Curtis didn't get banned, he might be up there. But
And Danger as well. I mean, probably still be around the mark given his name.
If
And
you had-
how he's playing as well,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. But obviously the hamstring injury might curtail his...
yeah.
Hang on, are we excluding people if they've been banned?
No.
Is that what you said?
No,
Okay.
it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's just
No,
makes
just
it
like he
more
misses-
He
difficult.
missed.
Yeah.
He missed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
So
I had
I thought coming into question your standards again for what goes into your All Australian team.
One wingman is okay.
There's also Ben Long. Yeah, and he probably would be missed in all this. A Gold Coast
Yeah.
player and also
Yeah.
a small forward. So not the Hollywood name that other players are, but
Yeah.
he's having a super year and should be in calculations, but would likely miss out. I would imagine
I think
at
if-
this stage.
Yeah, I think if you had a sub, Danger might be a good one. Like, I don't know if he's in the best forwards. His form was up there, but he's missing a little bit of game time now. Yeah, I reckon you can just throw him in if they had a sub for the AA.
Yeah, I'm locking Danger for the bench, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jamie Elliott again, and on the weekend just unreal. So I think he's a given for me. But yeah, all right. Well, let's see. Let's put our all respective teams up, and then see what the audience
Can't wait
thinks.
to see your wingers.
Someone's going to need to give you a list.
Jared Berry.
But I think most people are going to agree with me that you need to have and because it's just been annoying for it's the number
I
one
hate
complaint.
it. Carl Amon robbed. Like I said before, look,
Yeah.
Hugh McCluggage robbed on like probably 2 out of the 4 times he was in the squad. 2 of them he probably could have if they were naming wingers.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But like I said, this year, like there is no Hugh McCluggage or Carl Amon this year, I don't think.
Okay, but I think that by principle, like we'll talk about this. We've talked about
Alright,
this enough.
yeah.
But anyway, we'll put that up on our socials. So I look at each club and their first pick for the 2025 draft. This is going to be interesting because, all right. Well, you can start because this is upsetting for me.
Well, yeah, I wanted to take this convo off the back of OKC in the NBA making the finals. Like they've been the best team all year, and they have got 30 draft picks at their disposal for like the next 6 years or whatever it is. Like they just stocked up in those rebuilding years, traded off some really good talent, and cashed in for some clubs who were just really desperate. And the pick trading in the NBA is just absolutely bonkers. So that's led to them being not only having the best team in the whole competition, but then they've also got the best draft hand. So I wanted to look at, I heard someone say this last week, I think it was, about like when you look at a club's first round pick, it's a good indication of where they should be from a competitive standpoint, from a contending standpoint. So maybe we'll just do alphabetical order and just go through each club, where they're at on the ladder, and what their first round pick is. So for example, Adelaide, 3rd on the ladder and 16th is their first pick. Makes a lot of sense. You move into Brisbane, they've got 17th, the 17th overall pick, and they're in 2nd. So far, so good. Carlton, they're in 13th, and their first pick doesn't come till 35. Like that's the concern.
Yeah.
Well, I can keep going, and you guys just bounce back some commentary. So Collingwood, they're first on the ladder. They don't have a first round pick, so their first pick doesn't come till 36. But they got Dan Houston with that selection and a bit of a package, so that made sense for them. Essendon, a 10th on the ladder, so they're only a win outside of the top 8, and they have picks 7 and 9 in the first round. So
that's a win.
that's a big win for them.
Exceeding.
Fremantle in the 8, so they're in 8th and have pick 11. Makes sense. That's just their own pick. Geelong, kind of similar, with 5th overall on the ladder and pick 14. Gold Coast, this is a good one. 4th on the ladder, and they have picks 4 to start and 15 and 18 in the first round. So a bit like OKC, they're pretty well set for not only now, but for the future as well.
Yeah. I mean, if Ross Lyon's anything to go by, they're set for the next 10 years.
All common sense is to go by. Next one, GWS. So they're 7th on the ladder. They've got pick 12. Hawthorn are in 6th, but they've got pick 6.
Yeah.
So that's a nice bonus for them having Carlton's selection. Melbourne, 12th on the ladder, first pick at 25. We've talked about this a little bit this year. To be fair, Xavier Lindsay in this year's draft would probably be a top 5, might be a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
And that's who you traded.
I am annoyed that it is a later pick, but again, I think we've drafted pretty well last year and the year before. So, maybe the past 4 years we've done
3 or 4
a right
years. I
draft.
think you've had
Yeah,
at least
so
one first round pick.
yeah,
Bit of an ugly one. North Melbourne is 17th on the ladder. They don't have a pick until 20. They do have 21 as well, but it's overall, it's not looking
they've
great.
had like 10 years of high draft picks, so I
Yep.
think they can't be complaining too much at the end of this round.
Another ugly one. Port Adelaide are in 15th, and they've picked 22 to start their draft.
Yeah, that's bad.
It's not good.
That's
not
so
good.
bad.
And they don't have any like additional picks. They've got 40 and 58, so it's not like they have this massive hand in the back end.
Yeah.
What are we up to? Richmond. Well, they're 16th, and they've got picks 2 and 3. That's their whole draft hand.
That's probably a win.
They're pretty happy. Yep.
Yep.
Can't really complain too much. St Kilda 11th. They've got pick 8. That's fine. Sydney are in 14th, but they've got their own pick at pick 5. That's fine. West Coast are last. They've got pick 1. They've also got pick 13 and 19, so they can be a little bit more happier than most wooden spooners in last few years. And then the Bulldogs fine as well. 9th on the ladder, 10th.
Yeah.
So some clubs happy, but not a lot. And then a few clubs can be a bit concerned with where they're at on the ladder, coupled with where they'll start this year's draft.
Yeah, you don't want to be in that Carlton or Port Adelaide sort of spot where, and I think it's just they haven't. I mean, to be fair, Carlton had a high pick. They had Jagger Smith who got injured.
Yeah, they kind of traded what
for
was
him.
like pick 13 and this year's pick, which is now pick 6 for pick 4. But they got Jagger, like who'd probably might be the best prospect this year's draft. So it's similar to Melbourne. Like, what do you take? But
But depending on where they're at, like Melbourne, you're a little bit optimistic about because they're performing okay. Like they would, you can see our system in place, blah, blah, blah.
And you guys have had multiple picks the last 3 of the last 4 years or 3 of the last 5 years. So can't like you've built a little bit off that, so it's fine. Yeah,
but Carlton to me are in a position where Collingwood sort of should be. Like, so Carlton are where Collingwood should be, where it's like they should be performing now with the list that they have and the key players that they have. Like Collingwood have they're set. Like it doesn't matter that they didn't have any draft picks last year.
No, like they're fine.
They're just
and that comes back to the whole Dan Houston thing. Not that he's the difference in one club being first and one being 13th, but Carlton went to the future, Collingwood went to the present, and like you see where they're at in the moment. So, like I said, it's not everything that's impacted in from those two decisions, but it's a little bit eye opening when given neither have their first round picks.
Yeah. But then that brings us to our next thing. So, hypothetical mid-season trades.
Yeah.
So if we did have a mid-season trade period, you look at a Port Adelaide, you look at a Carlton, they would have to be bringing people in, right?
Yeah, well, like you might think so. It just depends but what are they going to be giving up? Like, are they shorting their draft hand already when they might be one of the lower clubs on the ladder? Like, do they kind of concede and plan for the future? Like, to Port Adelaide maybe give up a good player like a Miles Bergman right now for a first round pick, give it to a club that's on the fringe trying to, like, what about like the Western Bulldogs who have pick 10 and they send that to Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide give them Bergman for the rest of the year, given he might actually leave at the end of this year. And it's probably a silly example given he's a free agent and might leave for free anyway. But Power can get the pick in and the Dogs get a player who they actually probably feels a list need as they're trying to contend in the back and run of this home stretch of this season. And it puts them, they get Bergman. They don't have to get into this bidding war with a few other Victorian clubs that want him. I probably haven't gone to that extent for examples, but that just popped into my head then. But you look at West Coast might cash up, a little bit. Like I said, they've got picks 13 and 19 and 31. So do they use one of them to get a nice young midfielder like an Elijah Sidus? Like they've used so many players through the midfield this year, the Eagles, and they just want to get some nice youth in there. And I think Sidus would be a nice one, not getting a game really at Essendon, like sub over the weekend. Do they give up pick 19 or pick 31 to try and satisfy Essendon, or if they give him pick 19, they might get something back. It's really interesting with how Essendon might value him. And then Essendon, do they go and get a ruckman? Now, they got one at the mid-season draft, but this is in this hypothetical. You've got a trade period to go with it. They maybe go for that ready-made option instead of a 24, 25-year-old out of the mid-season draft.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, a lot of that went over my head. But
I was going to say,
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, Collingwood, do they go for just a key position defender who's not playing like a Jai Sarong or a Wade Dirksen, just given they've had to rely on Frampton a bit more than they probably might have hoped for? Not to say he's not playing good footy, but they probably just need one more in that pecking order.
That's given, though, if we were we've talked about having a mid-season trade period in terms of what would you actually, Like, would you bring free agency into that? Or would it just be like trading
Not free
picks
agency, but
and
just trading.
Yeah.
And it might just start with picks. Like next year, you can trade mid-season draft picks, but I think you can use your national. Then, like the AFL announced this last year that you can trade like your national pick to get into the mid-season draft. You also have to have a list spot open. So there's I don't know how often.
Do you see that being that useful though?
No, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of clubs who have a list spot open, and might like still trade in and get another pick. Like if a club had pick 10 and the club they want pick 2, they might give them, hey, we'll give you our 10th pick in the mid-season draft, but we'll also give you a 3rd rounder for this year, just so we can get to the front and get a guy who we think is actually worth a 2nd round pick at the national draft this year. So it could work, but I don't see it really happening too much, at least next year.
Yeah. Okay. You don't have any thoughts on mid-season draft?
It's unique. Well, I mean, yeah. I'll say even like just for an example, like Brisbane may or may not need a key forward. They've got, I think, was it pick 17 or something like that in this upcoming draft. So they could essentially target someone and be quite ruthless in that, we're going for back-to-back premierships, use this pick. And they obviously might get their flag, but then also another club might get a player who may or may not be in the senior side or may still be, but also get a pick in, maybe like a West Coast or something like that to bolster their draft hand.
Yeah.
Like if you got, I don't know, I'm just thinking like what was the talk last year about Clary? Like he wouldn't be costing that much given his contract. Like if Geelong gave up pick 14 right now for Clary, like helps their midfield. Yeah. You guys are down the bottom. You don't have a 1st round pick. Like it's that kind of conversation. Not to say that that's a perfect deal, and that just gets done in the middle of the year.
I just don't see that being that useful in the middle of the year.
No, I don't think a deal like that happens.
Most teams.
No, I don't think you get Bergmans and Olivers on the move. It's guys, and it's mostly guys who want to get to Victoria. That's the big push against it, is that it's just going to help the clubs in Victoria more than anyone else.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I think that's settled.
Yep. Moving on.
So next thing, I just wanted to bring this because I mean, you guys are writers and journalists and stuff like that, right? That's what you guys do. I'm a fan. I don't know if I've ever actually said this on the podcast. I am not a journalist. That is not something that I.
Your accreditation says otherwise.
I have accreditation. That's because I'm a media performer. But the state of Kayo at the moment. Yeah. So as a fan, and granted, I was already mad because I was trying to watch the Sunday game and it was the D's and it was the Saints and we were playing very bad. Well, we were playing okay football, but we're just missing a goal. So I was already
frustrated. Kayo.
Yeah. No, well, this is the thing. I was trying to watch us play badly and it just kept cutting out. Right. Yeah. And that's just just a small thing on top of already not being able to watch. If you're a subscriber to something, you're paying money for this product.
Yep.
And it's just not working.
Yep.
And then on top of that, as an AFL fan, if you can't afford Kayo, which is a lot of people, you're missing out on the Saturday night game. Now, granted, they did move it to Thursday night because there's more viewers.
There's not less
on the Thursday night. But then, what are we paying for?
Yeah.
If it doesn't work.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
What do you watch it on? Like, what do you have a smart TV?
I watch it on smart TV, but this is something. So I've had this issue on my phone. I've had it on the laptop. I've had it on at different venues. Yeah. I understand it was the Alice Springs game, so maybe the connection was bad.
I didn't have any issues watching it yesterday.
But this is my segment.
No. But what I'm saying is because I was literally having this conversation with my mates on Friday night. Yeah. Is because a lot of them were complaining as well. They're like, it's just it stops.
It just cuts out and you get a little error
and
message.
I sometimes when I'm house sitting at my in-laws or at my parents' place, I have completely different experience between both of them and what I get at home. At home, I use the Google Chrome TV, whatever it's called. Yeah. Works perfect, but it's not in my smart TV. I just use that. Whereas the smart TVs at my in-laws and my parents' house, completely different. Like they'll stop. The menu's just so different and hard to use and it's slow. So I reckon it's the smart TVs. So if you want to really bank on, and I know it's just stupid because you're already forking up money. Yeah. But look into what TV you have.
Regardless,
I understand.
We're paying for this product. We shouldn't have. Look, this doesn't happen with Netflix. It doesn't happen with
you're not live
Disney
streaming.
Plus. Doesn't matter.
Watched a live stream on Netflix once and it dropped out 10 times.
No, but it's not the stream quality that is the issue. It's the actual app itself. And I'm not blaming the developers because I know I've worked at a company that was an app before.
Yeah.
It's never the developer's fault. It's usually the resource. So I'm calling out Patrick Delaney, CEO of Foxtel Group,
You're going
Julian
for the top.
Ogren, who's in charge of streaming. These two guys, and look, you can Google it. Patrick Delaney, he's had his issues.
He's well known.
He's had his issues in the past. But this comes down to Andrew Dillon. You've given them $1 bajillion for the broadcast rights.
No, you as in
yeah.
Kayo.
Andrew,
No, I thought you meant the,
Andrew Dillon should be, because this is their product. This is the AFL's product that they've given the broadcast rights to these guys who offer you still have to pay for a streaming subscription that doesn't work. And the big advertising thing is that, you don't get ads. You still get ads. What are we paying for?
No ads.
And then if
No
you
ads
want to
for
forego
20.
the Saturday night game because you can't actually watch it at home on free to wear, say you want to go to the pub, some pubs can't show the game because it costs too much.
Way too much.
It costs too much. It costs them like $4,000 or whatever to
Way
like.
more.
What are we
Way
paying
more,
for?
yeah.
What are we paying for?
The pubs doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like I don't know why it costs heaps.
Exactly. And
The
ads. What are we paying for?
The ads aren't siren to siren. So if you're watching Channel 7, you get your Amy ads, all
Gold-
of that
gold
each break in the goals. Whereas there's no ads in play. So once the siren sounds,
but now they're putting ads, but they make the screen smaller.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what are we paying for? The subscriptions went up. Where is this money going?
Yeah.
So you can pay off your house in the Northern Rivers or Q or whatever. What are we paying for?
the Northern Rivers.
I don't understand. Yeah, no. Patrick Delaney's
It's the only place where rich people live. The Northern Rivers or Q.
or Q. Julian Ogren is based in Sydney. I looked him up on LinkedIn.
Jesus.
I want answers.
Oh, you mean the Northern Beaches?
Or Northern Beaches, whatever. Oh, Northern River. It doesn't matter.
I thought he was talking like the
Wherever-
Murray. I was like,
Wherever
rich people in Bundalong.
wherever you live, I may visit because I am sick of paying however many dollars it is per month for a product that doesn't work. Also, Andrew Dillon needs to get on the phone to Foxtel Group because he's given them $1 bajillion for this thing. This is their product. They should be mad.
They have all the leverage. They paid.
Yeah.
So Dillon, they're just you really need to keep broadcasters happy, and I'm trying not to defend Kayo at all here. But
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing
the
here?
AFL's in a shocking position to be going
they
back
are.
to them and being like,
Granted, and I'll give Kayo credit. Their coverage is better. I liked it, and that's why I'm mad. Is because I'm almost paying for the product that I'm paying for, almost. Except the app doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yep. Anyway,
Getting you
also Melbourne kick straight for the love of God.
we found the source of his frustrations.
Yeah. It was a bad Sunday.
Surely Kayo did you a favor in buffering the stream just so you didn't have to watch.
You know what?
Have to watch Melbourne kick 5 goals,
Delayed.
19 in the second half or whatever it was.
During that Melbourne game, the last 5 minutes, I actually I turned it off and I went to a streaming subscription that did work. Just so for a little bit more lighthearted entertainment, I went to Netflix and started watching the Osama bin Laden documentary because that was a more happy time than watching the Demons try to kick for goals.
There's 100 jokes there, but let's. Do you stream on anything else like sports that isn't like an illegal site?
Yeah, I stream
Just-
every UFC pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I watch on an illegal stream.
Yeah, okay.
That is better than what KO offers.
Because Paramount Plus is pretty shocking. Can be pretty shocking for the A League. Optus can be up and down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And if we really want to go back, this goes back to what happened with the NBN, and we won't get into that.
Yeah, this has been
anyway.
a long episode. Let's
Anyway, let's not get into the election. Let's do something positive. The awards. The awards for this week. So every week we give out awards and we name the award for something that we liked on the weekend. A little bit more of a positive vibe. So Mitch, who is your award going to this week?
Mine goes to Gold Coast. So after the whole Nepo baby incident, well documented with St Kilda's frustrations at all the handouts they get, I thought it was perfect from the Saints to debut Leo Lombard, who by the Suns, my apologies, by the Suns, to debut Leo Lombard, who deserved a debut, by the way. This debute's been coming for a long time. And my award's called the Wild Time Debut Award because obviously right after all the Nepo Baby commentary, they debut probably the best Suns Academy player to ever come out of the system. Mm-hmm. And which club bid on Lombard last year? St Kilda. So just right after Ross and everything else gets all whingy, they're like, screw it. They wanted this kid last year at the draft. We've got him. let's play them and show them what they're missing out on. So absolutely perfect. The well-timed debut award goes to Gold Coast Suns.
That's very
Love
nice. I love that. Mine is the Cal Award. Obviously, a shout out to Callum Ward. I understand it's unfortunate he's hurt his knee. I believe it's an ACL as well. Early in that contest against Richmond, but it's been well documented of his 3/4 time speech. I think the Giants were down by 4 or 5 goals at that stage as well. So got around the boys amongst it, put his own personal, I guess, trauma and disappointment to the side for a moment. Got to the guys who were visibly distraught. You saw Lockie Whitfield cuddle him and give him a kiss and console him on the bench while he was kind of going through the emotions of it all. And to put that aside and to be such a selfless team-first person player, which has been essentially his whole career, both at the Bulldogs and at the Giants since 2012 as well, is just a testament to who he is as a human being. So just a shout-out to Cal Ward for what he was able to do during the 3/4 time break.
Yeah. There were tears everywhere, like at home, at the ground. My award just goes to Josh Rochelle, a podcast favorite, I think, DJ Josh Rochelle.
Oh, yeah.
He gets the Mamba number 8 award because he did a little bit of everything. 3 goals. He had assist of the year. That would have been nice in the Premier League, and also flop of the year. That was great. I thought he'd get fined for that, but yeah, I just love when somebody puts together a nice game where they do every single possible thing in a game. Mailbag,
shall we?
Yep.
What's the question this week?
So I don't know who sent this in, but
it was on Instagram, so we won't put out the name private.
Okay. So Zero Hanger on Instagram if you want to submit something to the mailbag. But I've literally just read this now. Do the Swans sack Dean Cox at the end of the year?
No.
No.
If they were to sack him, it'd be like why you wouldn't wait until the end of the year.
Yeah.
But maybe it's more of a predictive. Will they? No. Again, no. Like, who are you gonna go get John Longmire? Like, it's just
he's still in the building.
It's well, it would be interesting if it really got bad next year, and then like Tassie's coming calling, and the Swans have Longmire right there, and then he's weighing up. Oh, do I go to Tassie? Do I potentially take the Swans job back? And then at the same time, the Swans are trying to find out potentially. I don't want this to happen, but trying to find a new coach.
Yeah,
they've got Longmire in the building, like you said, but. Yeah, it's no, it doesn't. They don't do that.
Ken Hinckley's free.
Yeah, he is. What's your point?
I don't know. He likes going to interstate teams.
Yeah, he'll be at Tassie, I reckon. Maybe as like a director of coaching. I don't think he'll be as a coach. But one of those guys I think will be at Tassie, but not as a coach.
Yeah,
like a Longmire or Fags or Hinckley. They'll get maybe a Bucks. Or someone at the helm. No,
I think Swans. Yeah, they've got enough problems, and I don't think it's.
No, it's just.
I don't think it's the coach. It's
not all system.
Yeah,
at all.
But shout out to Dean Cox. Did you see the little thing on the broadcast where he has his big lolly jar, in the coach's box every week? So he has this massive lolly jar, and it has a little sticker on it that says Dean's lolly jar. And this week it was empty, just no lollies in there.
Yeah, just stress eating all of the lollies. Let's see when they win. Let's see what the lolly jar's like at the end. Of the game, and if it's not too much, then he's not stress eating. So that might be
more lollies for Coxie.
Less lollies. We want him keeping his job and winning.
Right.
They might go through 2 jars if they win. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll keep an eye on that.
Right. Round 13 preview. So, King's birthday next week.
Excited.
We haven't quite decided. So obviously I'm a big D's fan. You're a big Pies fan. For me, this is probably Melbourne's grand final this year. And there's a lot going into it. So, not only is it like a game that we would love to win this one, but also like if we go back to last year, obviously the Christian Petrarca injury where he nearly died. So there's going to be a bit of feeling. I don't think it's going to be feeling between the two teams. I don't think there's like...
What reception do you reckon Track gets when he touches it?
I don't know.
I reckon it's going to be weird.
Yeah.
Like Melbourne fans won't know whether to cheer. Collingwood fans might throw out a boo.
Yeah.
Just because he could have gone there but didn't, and then he's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like fans sometimes, not just Pies, but fans can be weird with if it's a guy's big occasion, but you're the rival fan.
Yeah.
I reckon it's going to be weird when he first gets the ball.
I think Petrarca is going to get booed now you say it. I never actually thought about that. There'll be someone. Yeah. He'll be copping it.
And I'm not because it's Collingwood. I think fans in general. It's just a weird kind of, it'll be a weird atmosphere.
Yeah. Maynard's not playing, is he? Is he out? Still?
Yeah.
He'll be touch and go. He'll be in the mix.
Okay. If he's playing, he will.
He'll cop a boo.
He'll cop it, and then he'll just get a round of applause, like a standing ovation every time he goes near the ball.
Like I said, it's a weird kind of
like
just because one crowd's booing, the other might start cheering him on. Like it's
I mean, like credit where credit is due. Collingwood fans do a great job of drowning out whatever the opposition fans are doing. Like we've tried to boo Brandon Maynard so many times, and then he just gets a standing ovation every time he gets to the ball. So, but I think we're going to put on a little bet on this game. I think in terms of Freeze MND, we don't exactly have the details yet, but
let us know what they need to do.
Yeah,
I want one of these guys to be. I don't know.
The winning idea so far that was proposed in the chat is I think the loser has to wear gear of the other team and then sing the opposition song in an ice bath.
We might be able to do better than that.
Are you down for that?
Well, funnily, I actually know the Melbourne song was my junior footy club song, but we were gold and blue, not red and blue. So I'm not saying Melbourne will win, but I'm prepared if they do.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Collingwood song. Like, I didn't realize that was a point of contention. But if you're happy to do that, we'll put it in the socials or something.
A listener or watcher has a good punishment.
Yeah. And I think it'll be fun to do add in a donation for Freeze MND. But that's going to be like for us. I think that's a big game in terms of where the club's at emotionally. I was just looking at Hector Lombard. I was looking up Hector Lombard because I forgot to mention when we were talking about Leo Lombard. His dad is Hector Lombard from the UFC, and I think now there's just a cool little section of the AFL that just has cool dads. So like Cozzy Pickett's dad is also a stand-up comedian. And he designed the
just
Indigenous
games. Just shout out to Leo Lombard's mum.
Yes,
as well.
Yeah,
she's a ripper from what he says. And the debut announcement video was. I know this gets said every time, but it was actually probably the best one ever. So.
Yeah, we're so off track right now.
What are we doing?
The rest of round 13.
All right, I was just looking at the fixture. I'm going to tip a draw, but I'm not going to say like what game. I just reckon a draw is going to... Like every game here could be a draw. So I think I'm just going to say a draw is going to occur this weekend.
You're tipping a draw for a game.
If I was doing my tipping, I'd just do all draws and I'd get one of them, and that should.
You're actually right. This is a banger of a round.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like this might. We can't spend too much time on this because we're way over. But it'll be good to talk about next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Draw.
Northwest Coast. Hope it's a draw.
That's the one you circled. You've got Geelong, Gold Coast, Adelaide, Brisbane. Hawthorn Dogs might be okay. King's birthday Eve when you've just gone North or West Coast.
The wooden spoon off. I don't mind. Add Bunbury as well.
Yeah, Bunbury will be nice.
A North home game is a bit of...
just North or West Coast.
The most exciting game on round 13.
Might better watch it on Kayo.
Yeah, all right. All right, that wraps it up. We need to get out of here. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, subscribe to the YouTube channel and we will catch you next week.